Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the UK Stroke Assembly live and in your homes. My name's Tony Banks, Head of Conference and Events at the Stroke Association, and I'm also a really proud Chair of the UK Stroke Assembly. You join us today for our last session of the series, and the theme for today's session is Hope After Stroke. We'll come on to the session in a moment, but before we begin, you can catch up on any of the sessions we've hosted so far by visiting our website, stroke.org.uk/UKSA virtual. We'll share the link in the chat box shortly. And if you're on social media, you can also share and tweet today about the webinars you've been watching using the hashtag Stroke Assembly. So please do share if you're using social media. As always, we have the wonderful Natalie with us this morning to take your questions and comments. We'll bring Natalie on and say good morning now. How are you this morning, Natalie?
Hi. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's session. It's been a pleasure to be part of the team to run this webinar series. For today's session, if you would like to share any comments and questions, please do use the chat bar. You'll be able to find this on the right-hand side of your page, and if you scroll down right to the bottom, you'll be able to enter your comments and questions into the text bar and submit using the little arrow key. I look forward to reading those a little bit later on.
Thanks, Natalie. And we are really looking forward to seeing your questions and comments for today's speakers. Please do post them in the chat box. We'd love to hear from you. So on to today's session. As I mentioned today, we're talking about hope. And we know that stroke recovery is long, uncertain and challenging, and there may be setbacks along the way. But a glimmer of hope, and alongside the Stroke Association's specialist support and a ton of determination, hope can be the inspiration to keep going. So I'm really pleased to welcome today's speakers. We're joined by Jane Maber, Head of Brand at the Stroke Association, who's going to introduce our new campaign to you. And we're also joined by Nick Hounsfield, who's founder of The Wave, which is an assisted surfing school in Bristol. So pleased to have both of them with us this morning. Jane is going to begin and talk to you about our new campaign. So over to you, Jane.
Hi, thanks, Tony. I'm just going to share my screen because I've got a few slides for you this morning. There we go. So yes, thank you, Tony, and hi everyone. It's so great to be here today. What a year it's been. It's been crazy, hasn't it, with COVID-19 pandemic ongoing, and I think hope has been important for all of us during that time. So I hope that we get through lockdown, hope that we see our family and friends again, maybe even hope for a vaccine. I think we're all living in hope for that. And we recently asked stroke survivors and people affected by stroke how they felt that the current pandemic had impacted their recovery. And resoundingly, people said hope was more important than ever because, you know, if you don't have any hope, you can't see the possibilities for recovery, and with that it's impossible to start to rebuild your lives after stroke. So as Tony mentioned, we have launched this week a new campaign, and it's called Hope After Stroke, because we felt it was really important to show people just how much hope means to people affected by stroke and how incredibly essential it is for making the best recovery possible. With this campaign, we're aiming to reach more people. We're aiming to raise awareness, as I've just said. We're also aiming to raise money, especially as we come towards Christmas. I think most of you watching this today will know that we are a charity, and so, you know, all the vital, well, everything we do, including the vital support services, our research, our campaigning, all of our activities, we can't do any of that without generous donations from the public. So fundraising is an important part of this campaign, just as much as the awareness raising part. All the people that you can see on this slide, they are all taking part in this campaign. They are all stroke survivors, and we've created lots of different videos and bits of photography to kind of support this campaign. And if you do want to take a look at anything, I would encourage you, please do go to our website, stroke.org.uk/rebuilding lives. And you can see some of the documentaries and find out more about some of these people's stories there. But not only are we showcasing hope and stroke, within this campaign, we're also trying to raise awareness of what the Stroke Association actually does to support people affected by stroke, to find that glimmer of hope and start them on that journey of rebuilding their lives. And really, hope is at the root of everything we do. And these pictures on this slide are just a few examples of how we help people affected by stroke find that first glimmer of hope. So it could be from an initial meeting, for example, with one of our stroke support coordinators in our face-to-face service, or perhaps logging on to My Stroke Guide for the first time. That's a whole digital support offering that we have, and lots of information on there, as well as the opportunity to connect with other people that have had a stroke as well. But perhaps most notably, our helpline, or sometimes we even refer to it as our hope line, that more often than not is the first port of call for people who have either just had a stroke or have a loved one that's just had a stroke. And our wonderful helpline officers are there to provide initial support, guidance, information about what is happening, and also information about support that is available. And we so often hear it described as that, first moment of hope, that conversation with that helpline officer. So, it really is important that we are able to continue providing all these vital services to people. So look out for us in all these places. You're going to see the campaign across TV. It's on all the major channels at the moment. We're going to be on radio towards the end of this month, and of course, all across your social media. So there's one thing I can ask of you all today is please just share. So tell all your friends and family about it. If you are on social media, please do look out for our content and share it as much as you can. It really will make a difference in sort of just reaching as many people as possible and spreading the word, because we all know it is really important that people understand more about stroke and understand how difficult it is to get back on your feet afterwards. Now, as Tony alluded to before, I wanted to bring this campaign to life for you a bit today, and I am so thrilled that we've got Nick Hounsfield here with us. Nick is Director of Surf England and also founder of the Wave Surf Centre in Bristol, and he's a stroke survivor too. And so he's really kindly agreed to share his story with us today. So Nick, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Good to be here.
I wonder if I can start off just by asking you, what was your life like before you had your stroke?
It was a bit of a roller coaster. My life before, I've got a wife, 3 kids, live in Bristol. Actually, my background was in healthcare, so I knew a lot about the body and medicine, and then about 10 years ago, I decided to, actually it was when my dad died from cancer. It made me really realize how important health and well-being was on a massive scale, and made me realize that I was only really having an impact on people, maybe one person at a time. And I decided to build a slightly crazy place, a health and well-being venue, which had surfing at the heart of it. So it was about getting people outdoors, into nature, socializing with each other, and hopefully bringing happiness and hope to people. And that's taken 10 years to build. It opened last year. It was immensely stressful. I started with 500 quid and had to try and raise with my team nearly 30 million pounds to do it. So that came with a huge amount of stress, but we got it built last year, and yeah, it was amazing. So my life was real ups and downs, but fundamentally very happy.
Amazing. Yeah, what an achievement as well, raising all that capital for that centre, and I can imagine it's really rewarding. I'm sure we'll hear a bit more about that as we go through the conversation. But so very busy life, very fulfilled life. sounds to me like that's where you were. And so can you tell me a bit about sort of when did you have your stroke, and where were you at the time?
Yeah, so I had it happened on the 1st of February this year, and I'd been having some slightly weird leg symptoms for a couple of months. My legs were getting really, really cold and numb, and something quite weird was happening, and it was stopping me from being able to walk so much. And I was thinking it's because I was surfing a lot in the water, and it was pretty cold that time of year. And then I play hockey every Saturday Saturday afternoon, and I turned up to hockey, and apparently I was just being a little bit off, which is unusual for me. I normally love the banter of mucking around with people in warm up and stuff, and apparently I was really sort of focused and really not really engaging with anyone, and I recognized that after the event. And then I started to play hockey. Literally was just in the first couple of minutes of the game, and suddenly realized that I couldn't really follow the ball anymore. So people were hitting the ball to me, and it was just happening I was just not reacting to it. I couldn't really follow the ball, and I suddenly felt like cloudy in my head. And then I started with my right hand to start dropping the hockey stick. And I thought, oh, that's really quite weird. What's going on with me? And then I started feeling really scared because I knew something was going wrong, but I just didn't know what it was. And I ran to the dugout, and everyone said, because it was only a couple of minutes into the game, everyone said, "What's wrong? Why have you come off?" And I just said, and I just carried on saying for possibly the next couple of days. I just couldn't speak. I just completely lost my ability to say anything other than and some of the people, they were really worried about it and said, "Oh, we need to call an ambulance. Something's really weird with Nick." And then I suddenly heard somebody in the background, who's, I think, one of the medics who was playing hockey, and they said, I think he's had a stroke." And as soon as that happened, as soon as that was said, I realized that possibly was what was going on. That was the only thing I could relate to, just with my medical background. And yeah, that happened. Yeah, first of February this year.
Wow.
And yeah, it was super scary. I had a really bad experience, unfortunately, with a classic example of somebody who's relatively young, fit and healthy, not possibly being taken too seriously. So it took 2 hours for an ambulance to even say they were coming. In the end, my wife had to come and collect me. And then it took about 2 to 3 hours for me to get through triage and somebody to really take notice that I may have had a stroke. And unfortunately, they then they used the clot busting drug, and unfortunately it splintered my stroke and kind of diffused it right across my brain. So it wasn't a pretty picture in terms of care, but my aftercare was fantastic. And yeah, I would never I've only got respect once they knew actually what had happened.
Yeah. I mean, like so many stories we hear, it must have been incredibly sort of traumatic and very unfortunate in your particular instance that we do hear quite a lot with young people, that it's not always picked up as quickly as it might be, which
Yeah.
is why this awareness raising is so important. Perhaps moving on to I guess more positive themes within your story, which you've already started alluding to, but can you describe a moment of hope in your recovery and why it was so important to you?
I think the most important thing, there were little moments along the way, little sparks where suddenly my speech was starting to come back, normally with great hilarity, where I couldn't remember quite funny things, where I couldn't really remember whether I should be calling my wife my husband, my daughter, and that was happening the whole time. Yet I would be coming out with the most ridiculous, complicated, inaccessible words that I would never ever have used before, but somewhere in my grey matter they jumped out at me with a lot of hilarity. But I think the really overwhelming things that happened, one was when I managed to go swimming for the first time, because of course we went straight into lockdown in recovery, so I didn't really see anybody. I couldn't get much support because there weren't many people coming and doing the home visits and stuff, which is, I had to lean on Stroke Association really quite heavily for that support. But the real glimmer of hope was when I went surfing and also swimming for the first time, because I suddenly felt like I was going to be okay. That was the thing that it really floats my boat the most. And when I felt like I could swim first of all and surf again, that was an amazing moment. The last bit of really important bit, which actually only happened last week, was meeting up with somebody who's had a very profound stroke, and the two of us had a funny conversation. Both of us have got aphasia, and we had this classic funny conversation where neither of us could really say anything, but we both knew what we meant, and seeing how has overcome a lot of his difficulties really made me, first of all, appreciate how lucky I am, and secondly, made me have the most amazing hope for the future in terms of what he's overcome.
Amazing. And so what's life like now?
It's very, very different. I would say that I'm still just doing my back to work, getting ready to, I'm coming back to almost full-time work, but with a very different perspective on life, really. And I guess I definitely am appreciating my life, my family, and my friends a lot more than I did. I would say that it was starting to get, I was definitely getting that classic over obsessed with my work, because my work is my life in terms of it's a reflection of my personality, what we've built, and so it's very hard to get away from it. Whereas now I've become much better about how important family and friends are, and yeah, just rebuilding my life and trying to start thinking about how I can help other people, and hopefully spread some of the message around the hope that comes with stroke, and also reassure people that there's a great life beyond that.
Amazing. It's so yeah, your positivity is really infectious, and so so important when dealing with stroke and the aftermath. I hear you've had quite an exciting time this weekend, actually, with the Wave. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so I've been working with the adaptive community for a number of years. So we have got people who've got a whole range of disabilities or different abilities. And what we managed to do this weekend, even under the COVID guidelines, we've managed to create our very first English adaptive championships. So people were coming from all over. Some people were even coming from abroad and went through all the quarantine to be able to do it. And we managed to create the most incredible event. It was absolutely rainy, but it just didn't matter. We had the most incredible time, the most inspirational people that, again, just created the most personal perspective. And I think it's something that was shared amongst everyone who went there, how incredible these people they've overcome massive adversity, and not only are they there living life to the full, but actually they're like super amazing athletes as well. So it was, the whole thing was just a massive inspiration to me.
Brilliant. I think we've got a short video that we can actually show that just summarizes the championships at the weekend.
Cool. That'd be great.
So hopefully it's going to play soon. Oh. I think we might have a few technical difficulties. Please just bear with us. Hopefully it'll be with us in a couple of seconds. This is the joys of modern technology.
At last we have an event, so let's make this a good one. We're going to have to work together to make sure it flows.
There we go. Amazing. I understand that video is quite hot off the press for us today. So thank you so much, Nick. And the pure
Pleasure
on everyone's faces in that film is just amazing. And I think, you know, I'm sure everyone today will agree you're doing an absolutely wonderful thing at the Wave. And obviously wish you every ongoing success with it. I think we're going to hear a bit more from, we're going to go to questions actually right now. So Nat, are you around? Bless
Hi,
you.
I am. Thank you, Nick, for sharing your story with us today. There's been some amazing comments in the chat bar so far. I'll just share a few if that's okay. Going back to your initial comment, Jane, around people's hope and where they find that within their recovery. We've got some nice comments. So from Mike saying it was getting fit enough to volunteer with the Stroke Association to help other people affected by stroke in their recovery and to be a good example of what they can achieve after stroke. So thank you, Mike, for sharing that with us. And another one from Stuart saying, having lost a career which I was so passionate about, I relied on family and friends for hope. But the one thing above all else that gave me hope was my faith. This became my motivation to volunteer for the Stroke Association. There's some really nice comments there around how people have managed to find hope after their stroke. And for Nick, we've got some lovely comments for yourself saying, one from Ed saying, Nick, thank you. You've made me feel a lot better already. Sonia saying hope and self-belief after stroke is the most important tool to regain our lives. Nick, thank you for sharing your story. It has been very inspiring. All the first after stroke survivors, a glimpse of hope for all of us. And just another comment from Mike as well, saying, I want to be able to visit stroke survivors when they're at the hospital bed, when they are most afraid of what is going to happen next, so that I can show them that I have been in the same position that they are in and giving them hope for the future. So a really nice comment from Mike there as well. So thank you, everyone. Please do keep sharing all your comments with us today.
Thanks, Natalie, and thanks, Jane and Nick. Nick, thanks so much. I couldn't agree more with our audience. What an inspiring story you've shared with us this morning, and I can see so many people relating to what you've said. We have a few minutes, so I wondered whether I could ask you both a couple of questions myself. Maybe, Nick, if we could start with you. We've spoken a lot throughout this entire Stroke Assembly series about the importance of staying active, especially during a global pandemic. We found so many people needing to stay active, both mentally and physically. I wondered, Nick, obviously surfing is incredibly active, but is there any sort of words you might provide for our audience today on how important it was for you to stay active after your stroke?
100%. Actually, ironically, before I had my stroke, we were about to release a thing called the Blue Health Report, which actually pulls together all the research, evidence-based research for why being in blue environment, water environment, waves, lakes, the ocean, how important that is, not just for your physical well-being, but also for your mental well-being. Little did I know that I would actually be having a dose of that blue medicine through my recovery. But it really highlighted, particularly through lockdown, how suddenly it's the thing that everybody started to crave, wanting to be outside, be in nature, be by the ocean, and also how important that is to give much better health physically, but also mentally. And the mental side is obviously so important because it does offer that hope that allows you to get through every single day and try to achieve something every single day, so that you're feeling like you're getting that confidence back. And actually, it was the days where that confidence was low because I wasn't really achieving anything or didn't feel like I was. Those were the low days, but the thing, like trying to get out there and be active, be more physical, those are the things that actually created the hope that I'm going to get better.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Nick. And I know, again, so many people will relate to what you're saying, and some watching may be interested in the surfing that you guys do actually at the Wave and the assisted surfing. We'll share some details in the chat box if anybody's interested in the Wave, of course. But just, I think the main message there from you is just getting outside, how important that can be, being out in the fresh air, whether you're by the sea or in the countryside, wherever you are. It's just so important to get outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Just getting that headspace, actually. And it was quite tricky when you're in hospital and you're all feel like physically the world is coming in on you, and and probably mentally the world's coming in on you, and physically the same. I think it's so important to then, get that freedom back, freedom physically as well as mentally, and there's no better way in going back to nature to be able to find some of the cures to what's going on inside when you're recovering from a stroke.
Such an important message for all of us, I think, there as well. And I do have another question for you both, actually, if that's okay. We've spoken a lot this year at the Stroke Assembly about the impact of the pandemic on people affected by stroke. Jane, maybe if I could start with you, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on how our new campaign on Hope After Stroke really thinks about what people have been through this year, living with stroke through a global pandemic.
Yeah, so as everyone's seen today, this whole talk has all been about hope, and the campaign is all themed around hope, because that's what people affected by stroke has told us is really important to us. But I think the reason why this is going to work really well for us as well is because actually it's a much wider, something much wider that everyone can relate to. And I think at the moment, as I started off in the talk, everyone can relate to how important hope is. So it's an extra emotional hook, really, that hopefully people can actually start to empathise here and see, well, we've just been through a very relatively, it feels quite long, but relatively short amount of time where all of a sudden hope has been so important. And actually for stroke survivors, this is happening every 5 minutes in the UK, that someone's life is effectively destroyed and they have to muster everything to find that hope and rebuild their lives. And that's really what we're showing through the campaign. As I showed all the faces on the slide earlier, we're telling lots of different stories, and we've picked those people because, as we know, stroke is a very unique experience as well. And that's why it's so compelling hearing about Nick's experience and other people's experiences, because although there are similarities and there's definitely things that I'm sure people can identify with, they are all unique to the person that it's happened to and the people around them. So I think telling lots of different stories throughout this campaign has also been really important. So on the TV ad, you'll see 3 different stories, very short, because obviously we only have 30 seconds on the TV campaign, but then in the other content that we're creating that will be shared on social media, will be on our website as well. We have the luxury of telling a bit of a longer story for different people, and it's fascinating. And really, we say this a lot, and maybe the word is overused, but it is really inspiring to see how people just find that relentless positivity through such a dark time. And if that's not worth supporting, I don't know what is.
I obviously couldn't agree any more with you. And if people want to find stuff out about the campaign, you mentioned the website, people can go to the website and see stuff throughout the next few months as well. Yes,
definitely. Yeah, so it's stroke.org.uk/rebuilding lives. I wonder if we can just put that in the chat box. That would be great for people. But even if you go to our homepage, you'll be able to find information about the campaign from there. Oh, I don't know if we've lost Tony.
He's frozen a bit.
He has frozen. Nat, I wonder, are you still there? Just wondering if any more questions have come through while we've been talking.
I am. I think we have lost Tony for a short moment there.
We have.
I can share some more comments. We've had a few more hope moments, one in particular from Roger, who's saying his hope moment was when I first attended one of our stroke cafes in Manchester. Meeting and engaging with others and sharing experiences was inspirational, and I came away feeling hopeful about my life after stroke. So I think a lot about what we've been talking today around that sort of peer-to-peer support and sharing stories between ourselves. I think that sort of showcases Roger's hope moment there, and for other stroke survivors as well. Just a few other comments as well, saying Nick has been so inspirational, thank you. Again, saying from Stuart, whoa, inspirational, brilliant, thank you so much, Nick. And Sonia saying it seems an amazing place, so lots of interest around the wave as well. So some really positive comments in the chat box. I think, Nick, your story today has certainly sparked a lot of inspiration for a lot of people.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
That's good.
I think hopefully Tony will be back with us shortly. I think he may be having a few technical issues. But please, everyone, if you do have any more hope moments to share, please do pop them in the chat box. We'd love to share those as well.
I'm just watching intently to see if Tony's going to join again. Oh,
Here we
there
go.
he is.
Hello,
Hi,
hello.
Tony.
So sorry, we've done 24 of these webinars. I think that's the first time we've ever lost me.
Oh, no.
I'm so sorry about that, everyone that's watching live. I am back for the last few minutes, hopefully no more technical glitches. I'm not sure where we were left off there. Natalie, were you just running through some more comments from our audience, perhaps?
I was just sharing some more hope moments. So thank you, everyone, again for popping those in for us. Thank
you, everyone. My final question before we do come to a conclusion was for you, Nick. As we lost me, we were talking about the impact of the global pandemic we've been living through. Nick, you mentioned you had your stroke in February this year. So you were presumably a matter of weeks before we went into a full UK-wide lockdown. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering what impact that had on you and your recovery, and it must have been quite challenging, I would imagine, living through that as well as trying to recover from your stroke.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was, because I was discharged very quickly from hospital because there were rumblings that the global pandemic was upon us, and therefore they were clearing bed spaces and all the rest of it. So I was discharged with a team of people who were supposed to be coming in every single day, doing occupational therapy, speech and language therapy, and things like that. But then within about a week, maybe 2 weeks, they couldn't even come and visit anymore. So, and I'm not saying it because of why we're here, but actually I did then have to lean on the Stroke Association a lot for resources and things like that to really help me, and obviously started to engage with the community and understand, I guess, to allow me to get a bit more perspective and hope in that it's going to be okay, and that there's another side, the other side of stroke. And for me also was a bit muddled up because they weren't sure whether my stroke was brought on through COVID. They still don't know. They still don't know why I have had a stroke, and trying to actually make peace with that. I'm going to be okay, and even if I never find out why I've had a stroke, actually really live life to the full. Very cliched, but it's so true. Just living each day as it comes. Yeah,
thanks so much for sharing that, Nick. And it certainly appears as though you are living life to the full in its entirety at the moment from what you've shared today. And it's really great to hear that the Stroke Association was there for you in those moments. And I know we've been there for others. And if you're watching today and you've been affected by anything you've listened to, then we'll share details of how you can get in touch with the Stroke Association's helpline and find out more support from our website as well. We are coming to a close now. We've got a few minutes left. I'd like to say thank you to you, Nick, and to Jane for joining us this morning. It's been a real pleasure having you on talking about hope after stroke. Nick, we are going to get you back before we finish, but for now, I'm going to say thank you to you both for today's session, and Jane will hopefully see you soon as well. As we come to a conclusion for the Stroke Assembly for this year, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to everyone who's been involved in the webinars that we've hosted. We really hope you've enjoyed our sessions, and we hope you've benefited from them yourselves personally. We're really sad to be finishing this series, and we really hope we'll be back next year with more. We'd love to hear what you think, and you will receive an email from us before the end of the week asking you for some feedback, and we'd like you to tell us what you'd like to see more of in the future from these webinars, and tell us if the series has helped you. We really hope they have helped you. I've got some thank yous I'd like to mention before we come to a close today. I'd like to thank all of our incredible speakers over the past 5 months, the speakers, the contributors, including Nick and Jane today. We've run 24 webinars in total with over 40 speakers, many people with lived experience of stroke, and we couldn't have done it without any of you. So thank you for all of you that have joined us over those 24 webinars. I want to thank the wonderful Natalie. I'm wondering if we can bring her back on screen for this bit, actually, and make her feel a little embarrassed, I'm sure. But many of you will know Natalie from the webinars. She does a lot more than take your question and comments live on screen. Nat has developed, planned and delivered the whole series, both sets of programs. And Natalie, you've worked above and beyond to bring people the best possible experience from these events. So grateful for everything you've done. Have you enjoyed it?
I have. Thank you, Tony. It has been a real honour. I mean, our community has been really, really supportive throughout this time, and I think bringing the assembly back in this way was quite a challenging at its times, but it's been so inspirational. It's been lovely to sort of see people come back week after week, and now, you know, I hope that we can come back in 2021 with new webinars, and we hope that all of our sessions that everyone has been able to find support from, and that they've gained something from these series. So all I can say is thank you to everyone for joining us and making this all possible. So I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, thanks so much, Natalie. And you know, I couldn't do what I do without the support of the amazing conference and events team we have at the Stroke Association. And Natalie, you have been an absolute superstar with this series. So we are really grateful, and I know our audience love you as well. So thank you. I'd also like to thank Fundraising Everywhere, our hosts of these sessions. Guys, you've made it really accessible and easy for people to join, so thank you. It's been a pleasure working with Simon, with Nikki and Kira. And then finally, a big thanks to you, our audience. And without you, these events simply would not exist. So over 1,000 of you have actually joined these sessions live over the past 5 months. And 3,000 of you have watched the sessions again on our website. We've loved every single contribution from you in the chat box, everything you've shared, your words of encouragement to others. Thanks for keeping us going, and you really have kept us going. As Jane said earlier, hope has been important to all of us this year. Hope that we'd get through lockdown and see our loved ones again, and hope that there'd be an end to this global pandemic soon. We hope that we'll be able to do these again next year, and I'm sure we will. We want to do more of these, and please do tell us what you'd like to see from them. At a time we were unable to meet face to face, we hope that the Stroke Assembly has provided you with somewhere to join the stroke community, and we hope that we've played a small part in reducing any feelings of isolation or loneliness. I couldn't be prouder to be part of this community, and whatever we are able to do in 2021, we really hope that you'll join us again. So thank you from me, the team, and we'll see you all soon. But to finish, it feels really appropriate to finish in this way. We asked Nick to write a letter to himself one day after he'd had his stroke. And Nick, you've kindly agreed to read that letter out to us this morning, and we are going to end with Nick's letter to himself, his letter of hope after stroke. Over to you, Nick.
Thank you. Dear Nick, you've just had a stroke, and I know it's really confusing. You think you're too young for this, but you're not. You're actually older than you think. You're going to be okay, though. Actually, you're going to be more than okay. You felt invincible for a while now, and this will feel like a smack in the face to you. But turn this around, as I know you can, and you'll see the positivity from this all. What this will give you is perspective. Perspective on what really matters. Perspective on who really matters. Perspective on what you want to achieve now. Go now and fill your head with hope. It will get you through the days of frustration, the days of being profoundly tired, the days when you can't speak, the days when you don't want to be here anymore, the dark days. It's on those dark days that hope needs to shine the brightest. Focus on that and be thankful for what you still have, not what you've lost. But most of all, remember, perspective.